everyone, it's Amy Shahinsky with Fun with Stamping, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I am really excited to show you these two cards today. It's actually done with a technique that's harder to say than it is to do. It is called the Scrappy Strip Mosaic technique. Say that 3 times fast. It is super fun. You can use any cardstock or designer series paper to do it. It's best to use up all those scraps that you have sitting in your craft room. And here are two that are done just a little bit different. It's how we cut the strips, but still using the great cardstock from Stampin' Up! And let's get started. We're going to start with a card base of Rococo Rose. That is the 8.5 by 5.5, and then scored at 4 1/4. Our next layer is Whisper White, which is 4 by 5 1/4. Then we have a layer of Rococo Rose again, which is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. Then we have a layer of the Blushing Bride that is 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. So those are the ones that you're actually going to see and use. This last one, which is 5 by 3 3/4, is the one that we're going to use to create the strips. So you need it, but you're not really going to see it until the end. So these are the dimensions for all the product that we're going to use, but let's get started with making the strips. Now, this is what was my inspiration. This lovely Love You Always Specialty Designer Series paper with the matching Rococo Rose, the Merlot, Mary Merlot, and then I like to throw in a neutral when I do this. I didn't want to add another color to compete with these. I wanted something that was going to go with it, so I just dragged in my Whisper White. Now, you will need a paper trimmer, and of course I love the Stampin' Up! One. And what you want to do is just create a pile. I can't say how many. I've done lots of these cards already, but I just kept cutting and cutting. So you just need a pile. I have 2 sheets here, so it makes it go quicker. The Stampin' Up! Can go through there, our paper cutter can go through that. And you just want to create some triangles. There is no dimension to this. There is no right or wrong reason. I'm just going to have it more narrow up here and more wide down here. And I'm going to create some, I guess it's a wedge. And then again, you're going to go the opposite way. A little bit this way, a little bit that way. And there you go. Really easy to do. Use up those scraps and you're just creating wedges or triangles, whatever you want to call them, with whatever you choose. So there we go. There's our pile. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is you're definitely going to need a liquid glue. Mine's really messy. I use the Tombow because Stampin' Up! Sells it, but any liquid glue that you have. And the reason you want a liquid glue is you're going to glue these down to that layer that is the 5 3 3/4 that I told you you're not going to see, but you're going to need. And we're going to be gluing them down, and it all has to be adhered. You can't have a little bit up or a little bit not glued, because when you go to create the strips, a lot of these are very small, like this little piece here. If that wasn't completely glued down, that would fall off, and that one definitely would fall off. So you definitely want all of this coated in the liquid glue. So what I do is I start with I have a baby wipe in my lap because I'm going to get messy here and I got to wipe my hands. This is our silicone craft sheet. Here's our cardstock that's on the bottom, and then we're just going to create a pattern. You don't have to create a pattern. You could do whatever you want. I'm kind of a little OCD that way, so I like a matching pattern. So we're going to open up our liquid glue, and I'm just going to cover this whole thing all the way down to every bits and corner, and then I run my finger through it. And that's why I have a baby wipe in my lap. And then we're going to glue this down. Oh, go this way. Opposites. What you want to do is you want to make sure that your gap between each of your wedges is the same. And that's all it is to it. Just create and keep going back and forth. And again, it's going to stick to the craft sheet, but that's okay. That's why it's there. It won't glue all the way down. And this has to completely dry. You want that completely dry because we're going to have to come in and cut these off. And they are still going to be tacky with glue. And you don't want to gum up your scissors or your paper cutter or whatever you're going to do. So then you're just going to continue on gluing these all down, back and forth, with leaving, make sure that you have the gap all the same to create your mosaic. I'm going to get these out. I'll finish those later. So then when you're done with that, it's going to look something like this, all done. And then you're going to peel it off your rubber craft sheet. And now it's a little bit tacky. It's not bad. So if you like to use your scissors or your your trimmer. I use my trimmer, and then you just want to trim these off. There you go. Making it all even on all the sides. This stuff just goes in the garbage. Till you are left with, well, I leave that there, something like this, all trimmed on. So now I'm doing one, again, I'm making these straight. So each one of these is just gonna, I'm cutting these into strips of 1/2 inch. And this is what I'm gonna use to create my mosaic background. Okay, get the paper trimmer out of the way. So here we have our silicone craft sheet. We have the piece of that is just 1/4 inch smaller. I can't remember what this was. 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. And the reason you want it smaller than what you started with, because sometimes you're going to want to make it offset, because you don't want your grout lines, is what I call them, to line up. You want them off just a smidge, because that's what a mosaic does. So you're going to glue them, and you can alternate them. Like this one would come back this way. And again, just gluing them down with your, this time you can use your Tombow or your snail, whatever you have, because this you're not really cutting, just trimming off the edges. This one I would go this way. Until you create your mosaic piece. And again, that has to dry completely, because you're just gonna, these are just like little smidges you're gonna be cutting off till you have this. So I would trim off these sides and this edge to create my card. Now how I finished it is, I brought in the matching Love You Always foil paper that goes with this. This stamp set is from the, or expression is from the Many Mates. And I like to really have a lot of just thinking of you cards, because then I can turn this into a birthday card or a thank you card or anything, just thinking of you. And then to finish it off, I added some white ribbon and then the opal rounds, these new lovely, they're coming up and you can order these in January. They are very iridescent and sparkly. And so I just put 3 on there. Ribbon should come out of the way. But there. So here we have again the striped Scrappy strip mosaic technique. This one is done with a straight edge and this one is done with the wedge edge. But they're both very pretty. Very easy to do. A little just messy with the glue, but not difficult. And it really uses up those scraps that we all tend to hang on to. So I hope you like this. If you have any questions, just leave some comments. I'd be happy to help. Thanks. Have a great day.